So we've got both of our pieces cut. They look like they're pretty accurate. This one piece might be just a hair bigger. We can fix that if we need to, but I think I'm plenty close enough. Let's mark these pieces out and get ready to cut them. So we need to mark where the center of this arc is, and we need to mark where this hole is going to go. If you notice, the arc starts at 7/8 of an inch up, so let's mark that. I'm going to take my marking gauge, and on this I'm going to set it to 7/8, which is right about there. Take your time when you're setting this and make sure it's right. And I'm just going to put a little scratch. It's going to be really hard to see. There's a little scratch there, and notice I went from this as the bottom. This notch is the bottom. That's going to hold the bottom in for us. I'm going to do that on both pieces. Okay. We're going to go down from the top 1/2 inch. So we're going to set our gauge to 1/2 inch, which is right about there. Down from the top, we're going to put another little scratch. We don't want them super deep because we're going to have to sand them out. Okay, and now the tricky part, we need to find the center line. We know it's 3 1/4 inches wide, so we got to find 1/2 of that. Well, if we do some quick math, 1/2 of 3 is 1 1/2. 1/2 of 1/4 is pretty easy. We just double the denominator. 2 times 4 is 8. So 1/2 of 1/4 is 1/8. Well, 1 1/2 plus 1 1/8, or 1/8, that's kind of tricky. But we also know that 1/2 is how many eighths? It's 4/8. So 4/8 plus 1/8 is 5/8. So there we go. We're going to set this for 1 5/8. So there's 1/2. So 1 5/8 should be right there. I don't like that. Again, take your time with this part. And this one we can actually check ourselves. So if I go from this side and put a little scratch, and I go from the other side and put a scratch, it should be exactly the same. And I don't know if that's showing up on the camera, but it looks super close. I'm like maybe a 64 off. So we're going to put this all the way across because we have 2 holes, or 2 centers, not holes. We're going to do that on this one too. And I'm going to double check this one just to make sure. Both sides. And this one is just a hair big. I think it's close enough that it'll work just fine. Just be aware too when you're using this little point is pretty sharp. Don't poke yourself like I almost just did with my finger right there. Okay, we have our centers marked. We're going to grab our compass, and this part's pretty straightforward. We put the spike on the bottom mark, and we're going to match the pencil part to the tip, the top of there, and if we just draw our arc like this, it should give us that arc just like that. You've got to do that twice. This one. And again, take your time getting everything lined up. It's very easy to tell who's in a rush because we don't take the time to mark everything accurately or draw everything accurately, and things start looking really bad really quick. Okay, if you mess a piece up, please don't just throw it away. Bring it up to me. Let's see if we can save it before just giving you another piece. All right, so we've got our arcs cut. We're ready to go to the bandsaw. We're going to trim this roughly. It's going to be very rough cut. We're going to head over to the disc sander, and that's where we make it nice and smooth. Lastly, we'll drill those holes, and then we can move on to the sides. Now we have our curve marked. We're going to use the bandsaw to trim this down. I'm going to need a push stick. We're going to have to make sure our height is adjusted here. Should be no more than 1/4 of an inch above the wood. Closer if we can get it. And it's kind of stiff, so gotta wiggle it a little to get it where you want it. And let's try that. Okay, I think that'll work. So we're gonna keep our fingers well away. I'm gonna use the push stick, and I'm gonna just take some straight cuts, a couple of straight cuts across, just to round it out. We want to stay, we don't want to get anywhere near our line with this. We're going to touch that up with a sander and make it nice and smooth and curved. So this is really just a rough cut. Again, I'm not having, even with the push stick, I don't want my hand lined up with the blade. We're going to push from the edge. Alright, so you can see it's a pretty rough cut, but that'll be really easy with the disc sander to smooth that out. And then we want to get our messes cleaned up here. Grab all our little pieces and toss those in a garbage can. One more power tool. Once again, before you use this machine, you got to be following all of the general safety rules. Safety glasses, fan on, make sure the vent back here is open. Our stop stick should be here. I will refresh the yes and no. We're going to be using the down side, which is on this sander, is this side. We're not pushing hard. We're just very gently keeping our hands on top and behind, so anywhere here or here is okay. We don't want them here or here. That's not good, okay? So we're gonna just kind of gently, we don't have to push hard, we're gonna rock this back and forth, get it right down to our line. And then what I want you to notice is when I finish that, there's gonna be some tails, kind of tassels off the back. We're gonna flip it over and just very gently, just really quickly knock those tails off, okay? We'll set this aside and grab that one in a minute, and then when I'm done, we're going to use the stop stick to slow it down and stop it before I leave. Okay, here we go. And the stop stick gets set back right there. Let's see how we did. If we set them both together, and they look pretty close. I like it. A little bit of a burn, so I must have been pushing just a hair too hard, or we're about due for a new sander disc. Okay, let's drill a couple holes. So drilling, probably the most important thing I want you to remember before you drill anything is you always need some type of scrap piece of wood underneath. I do not want holes drilled through into my tables, the wood tables or the metal tables. So come ask me, let's find just a scrap piece of wood. We're going to set this down and we're going to, again, very carefully, we're going to make a pilot hole first, just a small drill, and we'll make it bigger later. We're going to line that up right with our cross and holding tight. Don't have to push down hard, just let the drill bit do its thing. Okay, there's one. Do the other one. Line it up very carefully with our marks and no pressure. Okay, pilot holes are drilled. So now that we've got these pretty much finished, eventually we're going to put some teeny little brads or finish nails in the end as we glue this all together. If you don't want to use the nail gun, that's fine. We can put some nails in the old-fashioned way with a hammer. I would like you to at least try maybe 2 with the hammer and 2 with the nail gun. But where do we put it? Where is it going to go? Well, it's going to go into something this thick. So if I put this right on the edge and just draw a light pencil mark, it needs to be somewhere in the middle here and about the middle here. So about right there. All right. And because these are such teeny tiny little nails, I'm going to use a pair of pliers. But I don't want to do this, right? I don't want to just start pounding that in right here on the table, because where's the nail going to go? It's going to go into the table, and we don't want that. So just like we did when we drilled, find a scrap piece of wood, set it up on there, get it lined up, and nice and straight. Once we got it started, we can kind of check it. We want it just barely, oh, there we go. We can tell it's just barely poking out now. That's perfect. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. Set this just as kind of my measuring tool, lining it up on the back side here, just drawing a really light line and estimating about right there. And let's see if I can find my other little nail. There it is. All right, so same thing, I'm gonna hold that with the pliers and we're gonna get that started just like that. Go. All right, so if you're not wanting to use the nail gun, that's fine. You can do that to this piece as well. But right now we're going to set these 2 pieces aside and we're going to cut these.